so much, Mary and Victoria, for joining us and promoting your beautiful books to all of our Mexican readers and all your Spanish readers that will get, hopefully, to know your work and enjoy how masterful you have made the friendship you have in your book, starting with the personal librarian.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us and those beautiful words.
Thank you so much. Well, obviously, I mean, your first book together took a lot of people by storm because it's really passionate story that, I mean, I have been to the library, to the JP library.
Oh,
but it was in 2012 or so, but I didn't connect. I mean, I didn't know the backstory. No, it should be like your book. Hopefully now it's like,
oh, it's there.
Thank God.
They sell it in the bookstore. We've heard that they have a personal librarian tour through the Morgan Library. We haven't done it, but that's what we hear, right, Victoria?
Yes, and we've also heard that when they're taking people on tour, they'll say something like, well, if you read The Personal Librarian, then you know this already.
Right. That's so exciting.
It will be great, like maybe join your readers at some point in the library, like
Yes.
We like love that.
Please do that. I will save up to meet you.
Love that. That'd be so fun.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
So to the readers that are yet to enjoy your book, tell us how the story starts, how much we can know, so we don't get, even it's based on the historical events. I don't want to give away anything, so please start telling us how this story starts.
Okay, do you want to start it, Marie?
So you've been to the Morgan Library, which is so wonderful. It's, you know how absolutely gorgeous it is, right? It's this beautiful crimson and gold, kind of jewel box. And for a long time, and it's in New York City, and it was the private library of a famous industrialist and financier in America, JP Morgan. Now, I, for a long time, was a lawyer in New York City. And I did not love being a lawyer. And I would kind of sneak out for my long law days. And I would go to the cultural institutions in New York City. And one of the places that I loved to go was the Morgan Library. Now, I don't want to date myself, but this was like a really long time ago. This was decades ago. And one day when I happened to be at the Morgan Library, a docent, a museum guide, mentioned that this gorgeous library and its collection of really one of the world's best collections of rare and priceless manuscripts had not just been started by JP Morgan, but there had been a woman involved, and that this woman's name was Belle DeCosta Green. And I just thought that was remarkable, that here was this woman in the early 1900s at a time period when women in America did not have the right to vote, who became the head for multiple decades of this amazing institution and also one of the most powerful people in the art world. And around this time, I was starting to make the transition to writing books. And you may or may not know, but I write lots of books about unknown historical women who've left important legacies. And so Belle DeCosta Green was kind of on my radar for a long time. And as the years went on, after I first came across her, we learned more about Belle. We learned for the first time for sure that she was actually leading really a double life, that the only way she was able to have the success she had, because it was an era of segregation and racism in the United States, she had to hide her true identity. She was a Black woman from an illustrious family in the United States, and she had to pass as white. And when I found that out about her, I mean, I knew she was remarkable before, but I just thought, what an incredible difficult sacrifice she had to make to lead this life. And it was at that time that I knew that I wanted and needed to have a partner write this story with me. That I can, as a writer of fiction, I can imagine a lot of things, but I can't imagine what it would be like to be a Black woman in the United States, either then or now. And fortunately, right around that time, I was reading a really important book by Victoria called Stand Your Ground, about a terrible issue a racial issue we have in our country. And she had told the story from the perspective of the women. And I just thought, would she be interested in writing this with me?
Yeah. And so what happened was that then Marie sent through her agent to my agent a proposal for us to write this book together. But as I was reading, there were two challenges for me. One, when I looked up Marie, because even though we're like sisters now, we did not know each other at all back then. So I looked her up and I found that she wrote these wonderful books about women who had been lost in history. But I didn't understand what that had to do with me, because I wrote contemporary novels. I had never written a historical fiction, even though I loved reading it. I loved the genre since I was a child. But I had never written it. So I just thought maybe there was a problem here. Maybe she wasn't really looking for me, because when I saw a picture of her, I wondered if she had ever seen a picture of me. I wondered if she knew that she had reached out to a Black writer, because I couldn't imagine why a white writer wanted to write something with me. And then when I read the proposal, it still took me a little while, because the proposal was mostly about J.P. Morgan until the end of the proposal, where she talked about Belle de Costa Green. And then I was very interested in doing this story of this remarkable woman who no one knew that she was Black her whole life, but she became one of the most powerful people in New York and in the world, in the art world.
Yeah, in all of the places, New York, and with this guy. No, I mean, it gets more
with J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan was probably the most powerful person in the world. He was more powerful than the president. So he was the most powerful man in the world, amassing this amazing collection that she was the one to put it together.
And I want to talk about, since you connected, and was it difficult for you to plan the book and get it published? How was that? Because I don't know at what point you had the pandemic almost coming when you were writing, I guess. No?
Yeah. Yeah, we were fortunate in that we came together in person several times, and then were able to come together visit the Morgan and come together with our editor, all in person before the pandemic started. And in fact, we turned in our first draft of the book before, I think it was like January, right before the pandemic. Yeah. Got our edits back really is this timeline right, Victoria? Right towards the beginning of the pandemic. And suddenly we were like this on Zoom every day working through this book, right? And
we got our edits back right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we were dealing with that and learning how to write we had really become good friends by then, because we had already written the first draft. But the real work begins with the edits.
Yeah.
And that's where we were.
And from another interview I saw of you, you tell this the information, the fact that Bella burned her personal documents. So how did you fill in the blanks?
By hook or by crook. I mean, so Belle burned and it asked everybody in her life to burn their personal correspondence with her. And to our knowledge, most people did. Now, there was a large amount of professional correspondence that resides in the Morgan Library. We did have access to that. But we were more, in some ways, interested in the private life of Belle. I mean, definitely we were interested in her professional accomplishments, and there were resources for that. There were the letters. There were lots of newspaper accounts from the time period. There were letters between other people in the art world, kind of who knew Belle, who were talking about her accomplishments. But for better or worse, better for us, probably worse for Belle, there was one group of letters that remained, because they were between Belle and Bernard Berenson. And without revealing too much, in case there are readers who have not read the book yet, you know that Bernard plays a very special role in the story. And he was a famous art critic. Really, he was a powerhouse himself. He and Belle had a special relationship, and they wrote each other constantly throughout the course of their Belle's life, really, as soon as they met. And those letters Bernard refused to burn. No surprise once you get to Bernard, right? And while we didn't have access to those letters during the pandemic because they were not digitized and they were living in a villa in Italy, and although I will say they have been digitized or about to be released to be digitized as part of this big celebration the Morgan Library is having in 2024 for its centennial. And Belle is actually going to be like a huge centerpiece of that, you know, that centennial. But I digress. So we used a lot of that, and we were so fortunate that Heidi Artizzoni had written an amazing biography, An Illuminated Life, based on her access to those letters. And so we were fortunate that we were able to kind of dig in sort of obliquely.
Can we talk a little bit about the professional life of Belle, and how did you come about to, what I find really passionate and striking is from each chapter and going on with the story of how she is able to buy certain books that are really important, or documents. So I want to if you can share how you set those kinds of scenes, thinking what actually went on and the backstory. It's really interesting how you did that.
And, you know, Marie tried to explain it, because what's so great about writing historical fiction is that you have to find the foundation. And we had the foundation so much about Belle from that biography. And it was the only one. There wasn't a lot of writing about Belle in The Personal Librarian is very different than writing The First Ladies, our next book, where we had so much information we didn't even know what to, you know, put in. What did we have to leave out? So what we had through the biography, through some of the letters that were in the biography, through other little research and articles and things, we had a foundation. So we knew what she was. We probably knew more about her professionally than we knew about her personally. We probably had to extrapolate a little bit more about that, because it was recorded what pieces had been, what's the word I'm looking for? Had been acquired. What pieces had been acquired. We had the records of that, and we knew she did that. So that was actually probably, I don't know if you would agree, Marie, that was probably, none of it is easy, but easier than the personal part, because we didn't know the personal part. We had to extrapolate it from who we believed her to be.
Yeah, you know, Belle was a very famous figure in her lifetime, right? There were magazine profiles like this one, and articles about her, and you know, when she, you know, in certain situations she used kind of very audacious auction techniques, and she kind of swooped in and got acquired things before they even went to auction. And those things were celebrated and recorded. And you could find accounts of some of those in the New York Times and other big publications in the time period. So getting a sense of what she was able to acquire, how she was able to build, instead of this very disjointed collection. Like when she first came on the scene, JP Morgan had such a disparate collection, everything from like Napoleon's watch to a Gutenberg Bible. Like there was no cohesion or scholarship really behind a lot. It was all about JP Morgan's fancy. And she kind of went in and constructed this world-class collection and in certain areas as well. So, and those were huge events, right? And they took place at well-known society kind of auctions or society occasions. And the fact that this beautiful, tiny woman was swooping onto the scene with a flourish of her dramatic scarf or hat and kind of undercutting all of these well-known people in the art world or aristocrats or celebrities and coming away with these treasures for JP Morgan, that was like newsworthy. And so a lot of those sorts of acquisitions and events we were able to find those. And those were really fun. And constructing those scenes was really fun because we had some more meat to deal with. In terms of her personal life, you know, the interactions between, well, I don't want to say too much, but between, let's say her romantic interactions, we'll just leave it at that. Some of that we had to use based on rumor and innuendo, and some of it was based on the letters with Bernard Berenson. And as Victoria said, we had to kind of take the infrastructure that we had, the oblique references, some of the phrases in letters, and we had to build on that and use more fiction than probably we did in those professional scenes.
No, but I mean, it's a really enjoyable work and full of inspiration, because it's amazing how, not amazing, I don't know what the word will be, but how come in 21st century we're still dealing with problems of being women? And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like this, that we think feminism and so on has accomplished a lot, and it's not really. I mean, I founded the magazine, and when I go around, other book fairs and so on, the CEOs are still men.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
it would be disingenuous if I said nothing has changed, because of course things have changed, but not that much. We're still dealing with the same. That was the thing I think Marie and I found so fascinating as we were writing this book, that there was as much as things have changed, so much is the same issues with gender and race.
Yeah.
And so we were fascinated. That was something, I think I can speak for Marie here, that fascinated both of us, even though Marie had written other historical fiction novels on women. So she already kind of knew more than I did. That I'm like, we could be writing this book right now. It could be taking place right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, that is one thing. I mean, Victoria and I are so alike in so many ways, and different in others, obviously. But, you know, one of the things that we could really draw on our own experiences, which makes the book richer, but of course is a little bit sad at the same time, is that, you know, Victoria and I didn't come at writing as our first careers. Victoria had a successful career in business, and I was a lawyer for a long time. And we entered those professions at times when often we were the only women in the room, often. And so we could really channel that as we were writing about Belle, walking into these auctions, these high profile auctions where she's, except for the wife of someone who happens to be on a man's offer, she was the only woman really there fighting for these precious, you know, objects against all these men. And that is something that is both historic and sadly timely, right? And something that Victoria and I could
Yeah.
very relate to.
And can we talk about the racial factor and how you explain that people had to register what race they were at the beginning of
Yes.
the 20th century? And I mean, yeah, it's really heartbreaking how many chains and just problems that brings to everybody's mind and livelihood, and the same stories happening again and again.
And again.
Yeah. And we still have the census. And so every 10 years we do register, and we do register by race because money goes to certain areas and schools and things. So by race and by income. So we do. I guess that I never used the word register before, but I guess that's what it is. And so and so every 10 years, Belle had been registered as Black or Negro or colored at that time, until her mother decided that no, this wasn't the way for them to live. And so then she recorded them as white from that point forward.
And how did she do that? Do we have, like, they didn't check before? Like, how did you change now? And
No,
no.
Well, it's
no,
not
even now.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Marie.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, even now, now a lot of it's done online. So it's self-reporting.
Mhm.
So in those days, a man or a woman, and when I say those days are like last 10 years, people would go knock on doors and take a census report. So they're doing it with their eyes.
Mhm.
And if everybody around them looks white, and then, they'll say race white, they're like, okay, she looks white to me. How many are in the household? 5. Okay, looks like there's 5 people in here to me. So that's how it's done. And so there's no checking. There's no way for them to check. The census, that's the record.
Wow.
So she created a record that said she was white.
But no, I mean, it's really
It's
mind
not
blowing.
like things. It's not like there were, it wasn't digitized. There was really no easy way to compare with whatever you registered in the last one. So when they made that transition from colored to white, nobody was cross-referencing those records. It's only in hindsight that we can go back and see that transition.
Well, now, it's I mean, it's really weird for us because in Mexico, as you know, we were colonized by the Spaniards. And for us, who comes from that descent, or probably another country, and the rest are brown people, but we don't talk to each other like that. But the racism, it's in with money and access to education.
Okay. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
guess the fact that you have to check on it and it's like a conditioning probably of how we interact with each other, or what kind of a job we have and so on. Now it's less, but it's like every 10 years or so, it's a new fashion of being, what are you saying right now, or who is becoming popular in any scene, and how we are talking about racism. So but I guess your books you have written also, Victoria, talking about race and police brutality and all of that. We need to keep talking constantly, put it on the table, because another narrative might swap it and change it and make it the wrong way.
And we do realize that. That's one of the things that Marie and I have said. It's almost like this is a mission. When we were writing about Belle DeCosta Green, I think we thought we were writing about this wonderful woman, and we just wanted to tell her story. We didn't realize the importance of the two of us coming together to tell this story. and that the impact it would have on the readers, the impact it would have on readers who would say, you know what, we need this, and the readers who wanted to have the conversations. So we're going to do that now, and that's what all of our books now are based on, wanting to do that.
Exactly. Can you tell us about the First Ladies?
So the First Ladies is the story of two women that you may or may not know, but you definitely don't know this way, right? It's about the extraordinary friendship between the former First Lady of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was the wife of FDR, our president during the Depression and World War II. And her friendship with a woman who's not as well known, but we hope will be, Mary McLeod Bethune. She was the first, she was the 15th child born in a family, and she was the first born free. And she went on to found a college and became, in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, really one of the most influential Black people in America, specifically on education and equality. And these two women came together and became like best friends at a time period of segregation and extreme racism, institutionalized racism in our country. And as Eleanor Roosevelt became the First Lady, they worked together behind the scenes and sometimes in the scenes to really lay the foundation for the civil rights movement that followed. So their legacy is so huge, but we also loved exploring the friendship. And in some ways, it was attractive to us because it's a little bit autobiographical.
Can you tell me that little bit?
Well, it's so funny because the little bit that's autobiographical, they had to have conversations. They were friends. And so a lot of what they did politically, professionally, is on the record. A lot of that's on the record. But we don't know we know they were very good friends. We know they were very close. We know that Mary McLeod Bethune, we know her grandson talked about how they would come together at the house and they were like two old women acting like teenagers, giggling all night. So we know they had a good friendship, but we didn't know the kinds of things they talked about. So we use the things that we talk about because we have an interracial friendship and the kinds of, and so from the serious discussions on race that they had, that we've included that, to the fun stuff of when we were talking about, well, what did they talk about? We said, well, they talk about what we talk about, losing weight, food, what are we gonna wear, food,
our families.
Yeah. And so it's really, I don't want to say easy. None of this is easy, but we have a roadmap of an interracial friendship. We had a roadmap of friendship.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, Eleanor's story just by herself, it's amazing how she was practically the president, no?
Yeah. Yeah. There were times. There were times, there were things that FDR would not have done without those two.
Yeah. That's an absolute sure. And it's a story that's really not well known in our country at all.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, wow. Really. No one's really written about it before.
That's amazing.
Very, very high level, no deep dives or anything like that.
How did you come about this story?
Well, we were looking, Victoria, I think we explained how when we went out and connected with readers, whether virtually or in person, we were struck by the fact that obviously people loved Belle because she's amazing, but people were really interested in us. They were super interested in our friendship, how we came together on such a charged topic. They were like oddly fascinated with us, and it took us by surprise. But what we realized is that people were hungering for that connection, and they wanted to see it, and they wanted to experience it, and then they wanted it for themselves. And so Victoria and I really set out trying to find a historic pair that had an amazing legacy, that deserved to be celebrated, but that also had kind of a similar relationship that we did, and in some ways, and because we wanted to give people more opportunities to see what that could be like. And yeah, we definitely, when we're out there talking to people about this book, we see it and we feel it from the readers.
Do you maybe I don't know, but have you done or are thinking of, you can have a podcast, you can have your program, whatever, even just like studies in college, in universities, like think even bigger, because it's coming. I feel it feels the air with electricity. There's so much to
Love
do.
you. Could we bring you around with us?
Yeah.
I will love it. I will love it. I will like move whatever in the middle of
Everything that you just said, we're thinking about. It's in the works. We're thinking about, because the reaction, as Marie said, has been amazing. People are so hungry for this. You think that the world is so polarized, and it's not. It's just a few people who are loudmouth. They have have louder voices than we do. The majority said, okay, we want to come together. So how do we do this? And then they look at the two of us, and I guess they see something we didn't know we were projecting, but they see two people who came together, a lot of things that are similar, but things that are very different. And we came together during a time when this was the summer of 2020, during COVID and during all the racial uprising that was happening in this country. And so people said, how does a time like that draw you two closer? You two became closer. How did that happen? And so people come up to us all the time and say, we want one of you, or we want one of you.
They do.
Yes, I want to listen to your podcast every week, please. People, of course. Yeah, I mean, because I'm gonna bring in God. I mean, this is God sent.
I know. There's no way. I mean, think of all of the Black authors that Marie could have read. And she could have chosen anyone. And writing together is not easy. You have to have a writing soulmate. You have to have, it has to be a soulmate. And a soulmate is someone that you trust, that someone you can say anything you want to them because they know you are only saying it for everybody's good. And so Marie is my writing soulmate. Like, we can say anything to each other, not about writing, not just about writing, about we go to with personal things. And it's so funny because we'll debate back and forth, but both of us are the oldest child in our families. I'm older than Marie, but both of us are the oldest child. So this is the sign when you can debate back and forth, but this is the sign where you listen to me or I have to listen to her. We say, I'm the big sister here. And then it shuts everything down.
I love you. It's amazing.
And so there are times when, even though I'm older than Marie, I have to listen to her. She has to be the big sister. And when she said, and we'll debate back and forth, but that's the sign. And the other one is like, this is it. That's it. Yeah. And then I say, okay. Or she says, okay.
Usually it's something for the other one's benefit. Like, you need to take a break. And I'm going to be the big sister here. And no more writing today. You go sit on the couch or something like that.
That's really good. And honesty, it's the center.
Yeah, it's honest. We have an honest friendship. It is just great. You don't get that. You want to have that with so many people, but you don't get it. So I do believe that this is a divine connection. I believe that with everything in me.
Me too. 100%.
And I hope the road keeps getting wider and more people can find you, yeah, that those blessings multiplicate for
Thank you.
your books, and your relationship are a seed for many generations to come. I really can see that, and we have to join others to expand the truth and the values and everything that, I mean, we the media and the social media, it's like has an agenda to put bad news and keep us just frightened and thinking, creating like realities that aren't really there. So you're grounding us to the right path, and I'm really grateful in the name of all the readers that will come. I'm like,
oh, thank you.
Thank you. The last question. Is there any plans on adapting the first novel into a movie? Because it's, I mean, it's a blockbuster hit. Do you have any plans?
Well, we ourselves don't do that work, obviously, but we are that I'm really jumping ahead. That book has been optioned for film, but it is, as Victoria's had several of her books end up as movies, and she can tell you more personally how long that process is.
Process takes forever. But we do have Al Roker in our country, a big name in our country.
NBC.
Yes. So they've optioned it to become a mini series. So we're very excited about that.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. But it does take a long time.
And you're gonna be a consultant for the scripts?
Yes, executive producers.
Yay. Great. Well, anything else that you want to tell us, to share with us, with your readers?
Thank you for chatting with us and wanting to bring us and our work to, to your readers. It really means the world.
Yeah, this has been amazing. This is absolutely, I can't wait to get off. And can I take a screenshot? Because I can't wait to get off and tell everybody that we did this. So I'm going to take a screenshot real quickly. I'm hoping I can do it with 2 fingers. Okay, you do yours first. You did yours? Okay.
I did mine.
Let's see if I can do mine. I might have to do this. Yeah, okay.
We're not super tech savvy, as you can see.
No, I mean, you did it perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know. But thank you. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much.
We don't get a chance. I'm going to do the same thing. We don't get a chance to speak to somebody internationally. So this is wonderful.